Hey there, this is Will again with Music Protest, and we are live. I'm trying to switch the stream today to just YouTube since I might get some more reliable results there. I'm sorry if the live stream has been a little glitchy. So I did kind of a spontaneous stream on Tuesday because I got into an Ableton pack called Inspired by Nature, which is new with Ableton 11. And it was so deep and so awesome that I really wanted to get into it right away and share some of what I found, but it's actually pretty deep, so I unfortunately wasn't really able to do much with it when I kind of spontaneously got on the air. So I've looked at it since, and I kind of wanted to break this down actually into a few live streams because I think, at least for me, the interest is much deeper than what I can cover in a half hour or even 2 or 3 hours. So what I'm going to do is spread it out over a few live streams. And today I'm going to focus on just one of the components, and that is the tree tone. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Ableton, and I can also use my push here. Maybe I'll start there. So what I'm going to do actually is just demonstrate a little bit what tree tone does, and then we can see how, maybe I think we should use it, how I would use it, and then how I'd recommend using it. So let's just go ahead. Now, it's a little unintuitive to me, but I'm going to make this point to you guys up front because it was a learning curve for me. Although tree tone is a sound generator, right? It's a resonator. It needs to run on a MIDI channel. And so you can't load it on an audio channel. You can only load it on MIDI as far as I can see. So I've got a MIDI channel here. I'm going to go add device. And then I'm going to scroll down to packs. And then sorry, I'm not sure why I'm not getting my packs, but apparently I just have the core library. So let me go and see what the problem is there. All right, sorry about that. I had my hard drive disconnected. So back right away. And so now when I go to my MIDI track here, go to add device, I'm going to go down to packs, and I'm going to go down to Inspired by Nature. And what these components do, first of all, it's just a collection of Max for Live devices. So these are all related to kind of concepts in physics and how we can use those concepts in physics to kind of create generative music landscapes. So they're sort of like instruments because they generate sound, but they're based on these sort of random chaotic nature of nature, right? That's the Inspired by Nature part. So I'm going to go down to Instruments here, and then over to Tree Tone, and I'm just going to load Tree Tone like that. Now, when you load it up, it doesn't do anything, but as soon as I press play, it starts generating sound. And these sounds can be kind of manipulated based on a bunch of variables. If I click into Tree Tone, then I can see there are different elements here. The noise feature, for example, LFO, envelope, tuning, all of these are different components. And I kind of find the structure of the macros that have been set up are really not that helpful. So I'm going to actually switch over to my desktop software, and I'm going to make some adjustments over here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so this is the device here. Let me just adjust my mic so you can hear me better. So as long as it's playing, we're getting a tone. And what's happening in Tree Tone here is that we are getting this fractal design, and it is generating, you can think of each one of these branches as a resonator. That's the term that they use to describe this. So different properties of the resonator, like the thickness and the length, correspond to things like loudness and also pitch. So the thicker something is, the lower the pitch. The longer it is, I think it's the thickness is loudness and the length is pitch. So the longer it is, the higher the pitch, or the shorter it is, the lower the pitch, right? But the thicker it is, that has to do with not loudness, or not pitch, but loudness. So it's louder. Basically, a thick one is low and loud, and a long, thin one would be it's a little hard to keep track of. Length and thickness are properties that govern how loud and how high a pitch it is. But those and those elements are generated here kind of randomly. These are the tree structures down here at the bottom that we can create. And so these are a variety. You can see them actually growing. And these all have different properties, but they will be created randomly each time, right? So if I just create this, I get a different one every time. I'm not going to be getting the same fractal design. And that is exactly why this is so cool, because as you can see, just by creating a new, I wind up with a different arrangement of resonators every time. So once you have this kind of tree fractal structure here, then you can control it with these controls. And I wish that the macros were just basically set up like that with these most useful controls right away. So I'm going to show you kind of my preference for having the controls set up. I'm going to go ahead into map. I'm going to map noise for sure. Sure, I'll do the cutoff, the wind, the rain, and then the rain spread and center are very useful. The next most useful one's this tuning over here and this spread here. So now I'll unmap and I'll go back to my push, and let's manipulate this a little bit, right? So I can manipulate noise now. This is why I wanted to create the macros. Filter, cutoff, so like filtered lower. The wind, I'm not sure exactly still what the wind does. The noise definitely introduces this kind of like resonant vibration. The rain is very interesting. It's going to create like random little sounds in there. And one of the reasons I like the rain spread and the rain center, so rain center is going to be like, I want to bring the tones that are being generated down. Rain spread is like how much range is there between the lowest and the highest pitch. So, you know, when I'm generating a sound and I want it to occupy like a lower range, then I want to bring down my spread, so it's a relatively narrow range. And then by bringing down my range center, I really can force it to occupy low range, or as I bring it up, a high range, right? So if I want it to be all over the place and creating a random arrangement of low and mid and high pitches, then I want the spread to be maximized. And now some of the pitches are going to be, some of those range pitches are going to be really low, some of them are going to be really high. Tuning and spread over here basically are the same thing. So in the software or in the plugin, these features kind of do the same thing, right? Bring it up, increase the range. But there's another aspect to this, which I'll show you on the software, which is that we can go in here and we can actually tune this to a scale so that everything that's randomly generated matches a scale, which is really awesome. So what I want to do is show you kind of how I would use this. And my preferred way to use this would be to like take an existing track and just make it sound more interesting, be able to create something that is evolving over time. So if one of the recent packs that I talked about was Mood Reel. So I'm going to go down to packs here and I'm going to find Mood Reel. There it is. And I'm going to go into my demo sets and I'm just going to load up a demo set. Okay. And we'll just listen to this demo set for a sec because it's got a good framework for adding a droning kind of sound, the kind of sound that Tree Tone is good at creating. But but this might be a track. I'm just using this as kind of like a quick way to produce a track. I don't want to go through the time right now in this demonstration to produce a full track. So I've got this whole track made, right? And it's got a strong, like, moody vibe to it. Now, earlier on, I figured out that this tune is in the key, this set is in the key of G minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, I'm going to create a new track. I could also do that on the push over here. If I were, let's say I'm going to close up my basses, going to close up my drums, going to close up my soundscape, close up all these groups. Having a hard time seeing over my overhead camera here. All right, and I'm going to add a track, and I'm going to have this track have my Tree Tone on it. This is just adding a new track to this demo project. Inspired by Nature, down to instruments, down to Tree Tone, load that Tree Tone, right? So now I've got this new track. I'm going to go back to my software because I really want to have, I'm going to select it and I'm going to hit Command G, could do Control G if you're on a, oops, I think I must have done something wrong there. Got to have that track selected. There you go. Command G or Control G on Windows is going to create a group. So now I can have macros, right? So I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did before, which was just map my favorite macros or my favorite values on here. Wind and rain, and then spread, center, tuning. So I'm just mapping these on using the standard features within Ableton. All right. Now I'd figured out that this was G minor before. If we go back here and I just hit play, I'm going to want to actually mix this out. So here's that production track, right? You can hear this is the Tree Tone soloed. So if I go into Tree Tone, I go to the device, then I have these controls, which I can manipulate. And I want to hear that in the context of my piece, but I want everything to be in the right key, right? Because right now, if I have that, bring up the mix of this. You know, it's kind of cool that it's creating this random stuff, but the random stuff is too random. It's like distracting. So if I go back to the plugin here, I can enable zoom out and zoom back in so that this is very clear. So if I enable the scale, I'm going to go to minor. I figured out this tune is in G minor. I'm just going to scroll up and down here. G minor, that's the tonic. So I'm in the G minor scale. Now everything that this tree tone is developing is in the key. So right away, it sounds way more musical. I'm going to hit stop, hold shift and play just to go back to the beginning of the project. All right, and listen to it now. If we solo, this is just generating resonances in the key of G minor. Now, I'm going to go to device, going to bring down the rain. Let's say that I want to use this noise. You can kind of hear it in the background. It's kind of a metallic noise. Let's say that I want to use that as kind of like just an evolving sound, something that is just moving in the background. I could record automation on this macro so that I can just kind of perform a swell and like an ebb and flow of this particular sound. Could automate the filtering of it, automate the wind. If I bring up the rain sound, right, I'm going to bring up the spread, but center it on lower pitches, so it's a little darker, right? So this is the sound I'm getting. It's all in the key of G minor. It's highly performable, which I love, and everything that I'm doing here is kind of generative and random. So, you know, as a performance tool, it's awesome because everything that's going to come out of it is going to be original to that particular performance, that particular moment in time. And for recording, although once you record it and it becomes part of your production, you know, it's pretty static. The cool thing is that, let me just turn that off, that when you do record it into your production, it's constantly breathing new life into what you're doing, because it's not something static. It's not like you played a MIDI part. It's not like you recorded some melody or some hook. It's actually creating something totally new, and you could just kind of like sick it on a production, see what it comes up with, see if you like it. Just do like 10 rounds through, you know, again and again and again and again until you get some kind of random outcome that you really like, and then that becomes part of your track. So I love this because there are often challenges in electronic music, especially where repetition, because we're always kind of incentivized to use the 4-bar loop, and we're always incentivized to be looping everything, and everything's MIDI, and a lot of stuff's MIDI, and a lot of stuff is beat matched, and it's on the grid. There's a tendency to like have stuff be very locked down, be very repetitive. And these tools, this tool, but we'll see in my future streams as well, the vector-based tools and the bouncy notes and the emitter, those tools, which are all part of this Inspired by Nature pack as well, they do the same, have the same quality, which is that they introduce something random, but that's really interesting. You know, I could think of so many ways to use this. You could use this to that rain sound, right? If you didn't want the pitched sound, you could run this to generate constant rain sounds, but then run those rain sounds not into your master track, but instead into like the side chain of a gate, so that it's randomly triggering a gate. And that could be randomly gating or opening on like a trance pad sound or something like that. There's so many ways that you could use the random production quality of this plugin and the other plugins to just inject a whole lot of life and get past having everything be on the grid and everything looped, and avoid any kind of threat of hyper repetitiveness. All right. So I really dig this. I think it is really pretty awesome how this tool works. And I'm going to dive in more to it myself. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. And next time I'm hoping to get into the emitter, which is one of the particle-based Inspired by Nature Macs for live devices. So that'll be up next time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you later. All right.